Horrific jobs that pay big bucks. Number 10. Oil rig worker. Commonly known as roughnecks, oil rig workers get paid incredibly well compared to most manual labour jobs. Average wages sit around 100 grand a year, with increasingly skilled work paying more than double that. But there's a whole host of reasons for the pay to be that high. For one thing, it's extremely dangerous, with as many as 21 deaths on the job each year. So naturally, the pay comes with a big responsibility not to cause an accident. For example, human error by personnel was addressed as one of the major factors in the Deepwater Horizon spill, which killed 11 people in 2010. And when you're not worrying about accidentally killing your colleagues, yourself, or causing an oil spill, you can't even go home. Since the office is an offshore steel frame, you generally have to live on site for 2 weeks at a time. Number 9. Miner. Now don't get me wrong, not all jobs in this sector pay well. Plenty of third world and developing countries pay next to nothing. However, find the right position and you could live like a king. Well, that's assuming kings earn $200,000 a year, that is. Across Australia, there are remote mining towns with a huge demand for workers, thanks to booming needs for materials, mostly from China. And since most people don't want to relocate to the next town over from the middle of nowhere, the companies advertise average wages of $100,000, with some earning double that. But the trade-off is that you have to work on rotation of 12-hour days underground for 2 weeks straight, with just 4 days off in between stints. It's dark, dangerous, and constant manual labour, which one worker, James Dennison, described as prison-like. You didn't think earning 200 grand a year with no qualifications would be easy, did you? Number 8. Pet food taster. How many people out there would jump at the chance of getting paid good money to be on the cutting edge of culinary science? But that offer doesn't seem so appetizing when the food is made for man's best friend. That's right. As part of the quality control department for pet food manufacturers, there are people eating dog and cat food, sometimes for more than $66,000 a year. According to Philip Wells at Lily's Kitchen Pet Food, it's to make sure the food meets the company's exacting standards and has the appropriate balance of flavours. Come to think of it, my dog does tell me her kibbles could do with a little pinch of turmeric. But that's fine for Wells, who says he actually quite likes eating dog food. The problem comes from market research, when he has to eat other brands that aren't necessarily fit for human consumption. Disgusting. Number 7. Private military contractor. It's not uncommon for soldiers to continue their military service after their tour of duty ends, and that normally means signing up to a private security company. It's happening more and more often, with 3 contractors to every 1 soldier in Afghanistan. And there are some big reasons for signing up, namely leveraging your combat experience to earn as much as $90,000 per year. That's more than twice many soldiers' annual salary. But that pay bump comes at a serious cost. Private contract missions frequently deal with personal security, which means closer combat, no access to backup forces, and often a risk of sniper attacks. And missions aside, PMCs have described the personal difficulties in raising their guns at the behest of a private company, instead of defending their country. One private contractor expressed his concerns about his employer to the Guardian newspaper, saying, "War is money, war is profit." Number 6. Mortician. Now I say mortician here, but really I'm referring to any job in the so-called death industry. That could also include funeral directing, embalming, or anything else in that area. Often, death industry professionals have to ensure that the deceased are well prepared for their send-offs, which can mean treating bodies with chemicals to stave off decomposition, or even doing their makeup ahead of the funeral. But aside from the morbid nature of the work itself, being a mortician can cause some big problems in the romantic department. According to death industry workers that spoke to Vice, many dates tend to be split between abject disgust and inappropriate fascination. I'm not really sure which is worse. But hey, while it might not lead to your dream partner, it can lead to a handsome 66 grand annual salary. All the more to treat yourself with, and to be honest, it's probably needed. Number 5, golf ball diver. To be honest, I'm not sure what's more surprising, the fact that this actually is a job, or that you can earn 150,000 grand a year doing it. But yes, you really can make megabucks donning diving gear and scooping the balls out of the lakes in a golf course. It turns out that there's a massive market for refurbishing and reselling the 200 million golf balls lost annually. And where there's a market, there's money. But for all of the potential riches that come with the job, it has its fair share of hazards. Depending on where you are, there's a real big chance of getting bitten by anything from snapping turtles to alligators. And while it wasn't in a professional capacity, South African golfer Jacques van der Sant was killed by a crocodile at Kruger National Park while picking up golf balls from the bottom of the lake. Number 4, lumberjack. Now, admittedly, this one is stretching the definition of big bucks a little bit, with $39,000 annually. However, it does rake in $8K more than the US national average. Make of that what you will. But regardless, that ever so slight pay bump comes with the sizable trade-off of being the most dangerous profession in America. 91 out of every 100,000 forestry and logging workers die on the job each year. 0.09% might not sound like a lot, but it's actually 30 times the average worker mortality rate, and it's even higher than the army. As you'd expect, the most common cause is trees and branches falling on people, which is around 62% of deaths. However, according to Dana Hinckley of the logging safety campaign Logger Rescue, there's a so-called macho culture among loggers that leads them to ignore safety regulations. Number 3, airline pilot. You're probably thinking that being a pilot is one of the most glamorous, high-flying jobs you could probably have, literally. And on top of that, you can earn a massive $120,000 per year doing it. The only thing cooler than that is my in-flight meal. But all kidding aside, the life of a pilot isn't really all it's cracked up to be. In fact, according to a Harvard University study, the rate of depression in the job is 3 times the global average at 12.6%, with another 4% having suicidal thoughts. That's largely because of the extremely long hours of technical work, fatigue, and constantly spending time away from home. That's not to mention the stress that comes from holding the lives of hundreds of people in your hands. So it's not surprising that there have been multiple cases of pilots drunk on the job. That's definitely not an excuse though. Number 2, crime scene cleaner. Perhaps more than any other job on this list, being a crime scene cleaner isn't for the faint of heart. Not least because you might see your fair share of them. Also known as hazardous material removal workers, crime scene cleaners show up on a daily basis to fix the aftermath of things most people hope never to see. Murder, suicide, even decomposition after unattended deaths. That means cleaning up anything from blood to viscera, disinfecting the area, and sometimes helping families with the grieving process. At the very least, you can get paid a decent wage for it. It's possible to earn $56,000 or more a year, which isn't exactly a princely sum, but at least it's close to double the national average. Even so, you need a certain temperament to get through a day, let alone a year. Number 1, sewer flusher. This job is exactly as disgusting as it sounds, and sometimes far worse. Sewer flushers dive deep into sewage pipes to clear out anything that's stopping number 1 and 2 getting from point A to point B. But beyond your friendly neighbourhood blockage, some flushers have to contend with so-called fatbergs. These Goliath structures made of wet wipes and fat wreak havoc on sewers. One famous fatberg in Whitechapel, London weighed 136,000 kilograms, stretched for 250 metres, and took 8 people 9 weeks to clear. But at least the money is pretty decent, at around £45,000 annually, or 60k in dollars. That's well above the average British wage, but you won't find me shoveling fatbergs anytime soon. London's chief flusher, Rob Smith, seems to like it though. He told the Daily Mail that London's Victorian pipes smell fragrant in the morning when they're full of soapy water. I'll have to take your word for it, Rob. That was 10 horrific jobs that pay big bucks. Do you have a worse job that pays more? Let us know in the comments and make sure to like and subscribe. While you're at it, check out this great All Time 10s video on screen now.